Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create the Milky Way with distressed oxide sprays, and we're going to make 3 cards with them using the Spellbinders Simon Space Adventure. So this one is To the Moon, the second one is the UFO Friends, and then there's a set of space greetings to go with the theme of this release. And then there's a combination of the Starry Night 3D Emboss and Cut folder along with a stencil bundle for some fabulous stars. The distress oxides that I grabbed are Violet, Mermaid, Lagoon, Villainous Potions, Enchanted Mariner, and Picket Fence, although it's not working, so I grabbed the Diana one, and Black Soot. Okay, I'm working on my glass mat because it's really easy to clean up. You just spritz it with water and wipe it up. I've got some paper towel underneath my watercolor paper. My watercolor paper is pre-cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and out of the top there, I just showed you I have a place to put my wet pieces to let them dry. And so we're going to start off, I like to start off by taking my spritzer full of water and really saturating my watercolor paper. This is going to help the ink explode when we spray it. You want to shake your bottle side to side, not up and down, because up and down will clog up the stem for the spritzer. And we're just going to give it a quick spritz and see how it explodes with the water already on the paper. And then I'm using the Mermaid Lagoon and doing the same thing. And then the top and the bottom, I am going to spray Enchanted Mariner. So this gives the opportunity of having 2 like solar blasts in the middle and then a little bit of dark at the top and the bottom to help frame out your background. So, okay, and you just hold the paper down with your tweezers. It's going to warp because it's getting wet. Okay, and if you have a whole bunch of white spots, then come back and fill it in with a second run of some of the colors. And then you can pick the paper up and let it run a little bit. You can also get rid of any puddles and then move it over to the drying station. And we're going to do a second one. Actually, I end up doing 4, but I only show you 2 in the video. I'm testing a couple of colors. I've decided that a couple of them are a little bit on the dark side, so I'm eliminating one, and I think, what was it? I don't remember. Anyway, okay, top right-hand corner, we're going for a big splash of purple, and then back to the, what was it? Mermaid Lagoon for the left-hand side. And again, top and bottom, I'm going with Enchanted Mariner. And then I'm going to come back in and just add a little bit of black in a couple of spots. And there I added a little bit too much purple. I should have left that alone. And I should have watered it down. Okay, so here comes the Black Soot. I want a little bit of black in this bottom corner because I've got a silver spaceship that's probably going to go on this one. So again, once you're happy with your galaxy, then you want to set it aside to dry. Or in this case, I'm using my heat tool to dry this so that we can get on with the video. Now that my paper's dry, we can add our top layers. I'm going to use the Spellbinders Splatter White Paint to make my stars. And I have an acrylic handle up there on the right-hand side. And this is really, 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 really pigmented white ink. So you just need a tiny little bit. And then I'm going to add some water to it to dilute it. And you want to get it just diluted enough that you can splatter with it. You want to make sure that the art pieces are really dry to do this, otherwise it's just going to mix with the other ink and blend right in. This way at least it gets a chance to sit on top and stay white and look like our stars. Perfect. Okay, I am shaking up the Delusion's white linen and we are going to do 1 sweep across to make our Milky Way. And again, you want to make sure that your background's dry, otherwise it just blends in. It will activate a little bit underneath, which helps it make that milky look. And as you can see, some of them I spritzed twice, so some of them are heavier than the others. Now it's time to make our little spaceships, and I am using these stacks from Spellbinders to hold all my little pieces in. They're really, really handy when you're doing a lot of die cutting. And I'm just showing you each of the dies and the pieces that I cut out of each one so that you can see how this is all going together. And then I'm actually going to glue this first one all together. and you can see how I do it. And then I'm showing you the 2 layers of the sentiments. Okay, so let's get into gluing our pieces together. I glue with a nice fine tip. I find that really helps when you're getting into little pieces. We're going to start with the moon, and I've got the overlay and then the underlay. And these are both cut out from the Spellbinders Silver Assorted pack. And this is a really cool cardstock pack, and I do show you both of them at the end of the video. There's a pink gold, there's a gold, and there's a silver, and I have all 3 of them, and I love them. Okay, so you want to make sure not to get a whole bunch of glue all over the kind of matte finish on the silver, because it does kind of show up. So be careful about how much glue you're going to add. And I'm holding the moon upside down and holding it together so that it sets. And then while I'm doing that, I'm picking out all the black pieces that I have die cut so that we can start to make our little spaceship. And there's quite a few pieces, and there's a little bit of ink blending that needs to happen here. In particular on the fire coming out of the bottom of the spaceship. Okay, and I'm just kind of sorting everything out. I think, yep, my moon's dry. There he is. So the dull side on top and then the shiny underneath really helps it kind of elevate the craters. It's a really cool die cut for moons. So I'm a circle, and that goes in behind the circle cut out on the moon for the window. And so it's best to put the glue on the back of the spaceship, and then that way you're going to add the circle to it. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of the picture there. It'll come back in a sec. I'm still getting used to my new setup. And then the next one is the wider piece with the little dots in it, and that goes across the top. Okay, and you want to lay that down and use as little glue as possible. And then the skinnier one goes across the bottom. I find that my Place and Score embellishment wand is really good for picking up these little pieces, because I have no fingernails and it's the middle of winter around here. So my fingernails are all peeling and I've got them cut really short. So I'm having a hard time picking up anything. Okay, so for the nose of the spaceship, that's the other piece of black, kind of a triangle that goes up there. And then the burners on the bottom, there's the flashing for the burner. Okay, I have a little bit of glue up there and I'm just wiping it off with the end of my tweezers. And you want to use the side, not the tips, because the tips are really, really sharp and they end up scoring into that silver paper. Okay, so then we have to add the feet so that the spaceship can stand up. I also think they're rudders so that it helps them fly. Okay, and these are really good projects for the little people in your life, or if you want to actually build them with some of your little people in your life. These are great guy cards, little masculine cards. The kids have a hoot putting these together. Now we're going to do a little bit of ink blending for that little window, and that's the second little round piece, and this one is in white, and you need the little dot that comes out of the center of it too. That's kind of a highlight. So I've gone in with a light blue marine, I think that was. I'm also going to do the fire while we're here. So I have the honey from Simon Says Stamps and Gina K's Cherry Red. So I'm doing honey all over the 2 pieces, and then I'm coming back in and just the very, very tip of the large one, and then all over for the small one, because they get layered on top of each other. Okay, and for the window, I have a second color that I'm bringing in. This is Cadet from Simon Says Stamps, and I'm using it just on the edge, and then I'm also going to use it along the bottom of the fire. I just want to tone that yellow down a little bit. Okay, so that is all ready to go, and I just need to glue these little guys in place. So let's start with the window. Okay, a little bit of glue on the back, and then I want my little highlight to be over there on the left-hand side. So once that's down, I'm just going to add a little dot of glue and add the little highlight. Makes a cool window. And then for the fire, we're laying those 2 over, and then a little bit of glue across the top. And then we're going to lay the whole spaceship over top of that. And there we go. Burners on. Next, I'm doing a little dry fitting just to make sure everything's where I want it to be. And I've decided that I need to add a little bit of white to the parts of the spaceship that are black so that it stands out a little bit. So I'm using pigment white ink and a really, really fine detailed brush, just going around the outside edges. So, and it's also going to make it seem like it's streaming through space. Okay, so up by the nose and also down where the feet are. Now I'm happy with where everything is, so I'm going to use the square foams from Spellbinders and I'm going to start gluing everything down. I like to start with my sentiments in the bottom left-hand corner because that's going to determine where the rocket ship's going to go, and it's easier than trying to squeeze it in after you've already glued the rocket ship down. So put those in first down in the bottom corner. Line them up, get them where you like them. Tweezers are great for picking them up and moving them around. And just taking the paper off the back of all my little foam pieces for my spaceship and getting ready to place him. And then we're going to do the moon. And then also in the die set, there is a die to do a whole bunch of stars. And I have cut those out twice, and I have those in my little stack box. And I'm using my embellishment wand to move those into position right across that Milky Way. And these are done in the silver glimmer paper from the Spellbinders Silver Assorted pack. And this glimmer paper is beautiful and it doesn't shed. So you need this stuff. I guarantee you will love it. Okay, so I'm kind of liking where all of that is, so I am just going to glue those little guys down. And this card is basically done. Wasn't that fun? Don't you think your kids would have a blast making these? Oh. All right. Up close and personal. I really like how this turned out. Okay, if you don't have Distress Oxide sprays or you don't want to play with them with your little people and you want to make one of these cards, no problem. We have some ink blending. So I used Knight and Cadet from Simon Says Stamps and the Cherry Red from Gina K, and I just ink blended the backgrounds. There's a black and a yellow one, and that was with the Honey and with the VersaFine Nocturne Black. That's card number 2. On to card number 3. These little UFO friends are just a hoot. So here's my layout of all the pieces, and I'm showing you where I cut them out and which parts they are in the picture. So the top like 3 create the little spaceship, and then there's the moon, well actually Saturn, and then Saturn's circles around it, and the little pieces that go into the top of the spaceship, and of course our little UFO friend and all those little pieces. There's a double die cut to do his eyes. I decided that this was the perfect opportunity for one of those little wiggly eyes. Okay, so once again we're just going to start gluing these all together, and I'm using the Barely Art glue with the fine tip, and I'm just going to quickly go through all the pieces, putting them together. So the base of the spaceship, and then we're going to start adding all the elements to it. So the big silver disc, and then the piece that I'm overlaying right now, this one is actually another piece of watercolor paper, and I use Lindy's Magicals, and this was the Tibetan Poppy Teal. I have a big stash of this paper, so I just grabbed a bunch of pieces out of it. Saturn is actually made with Lindy's Magicals as well, and it was a Sweet Violet Purple Teal. Okay, and then I die cut the little gold overlays for the top of that. I thought it looked cute. And then we're going to use a piece of vellum for the lid of the spaceship. And again, with vellum, you can see your glue through it, so you have to be careful. I just put it along the bottom there because there's a little windshield trim that is die cut in silver that can go over top of that. And that will cover up the little bit of glue that I did have in there. So I made my little monster, did the whole thing, but I need to cut part of him off because he's going to be sitting inside the spaceship. And a good tip here would be to do this before you put the wobbly eye on, because it got kind of hard to cut. Anyway, just did a little pencil line and it got him in there. And then there's a little stick shift that I'm going to have to put in there too. So first of all, we're going to add the little monster. Okay. And I'm going to raise him just a tiny, tiny little bit because I have to put that silver windshield trim in and I don't want it to cover up his mouth. There's this little stick shift. Okay. And now I'm going to lift him and raise him just a tiny bit. And then there's this little skinny piece for the windshield. And we're just going to pop that trim in there. And that really finishes him off nicely. He's so cute. All right, let's put Saturn together. There's two pieces, and you can see that there are some indents in the solid one so that it shows you where to overlay the other piece. And again, just adding some glue to the back of it, and then we're going to pop it in place. And then we have the rings that need to go around it, and I did those out of a matte gold. Okay, and you want to hold them with your tweezers because you just want to put the glue on the two tips. And I'm just showing you this green one so you can see how it looks when it's done. Okay, so then you just slide the planet in between, and then the two end pieces go behind. And you just want to hold that for a couple seconds until the glue sets. And ta-da! You have Saturn. Okay, now it's time to put our card together. I have my card base. It's white 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5 1/2. And then we are going to add our top, or card front, or Milky Way, whatever you want to call it. And I'm using a tape runner and trying to decide which way I want my Milky Way to go. And watercolor paper, it's you got to bend it back into shape after it's been wet. And I also like to use my score buddy for this. Use the top left-hand corner, and you can wedge everything in and get it in there nice and straight. And if you have a little overhang, then trim that off. I like using the Simon Says stamps. No stick scissors for that. They're amazing. Okay, I'm attaching half foam squares on the back of my little UFO dude, and trying to decide where I'm going to place him. I'm doing dry fit again this time. Saturn, I'm adding 4 little pieces on the back of it. It's going to go up in the top left-hand corner, I think. Trying to decide, do we want the... Yeah, I think I want the rings going that way. Kind of matches the spaceship a little bit is what I'm thinking. Okay, and adding some foam to the back of the sentiment, which I'm going to stick in the middle for this one. And then again, I have a bunch of gold stars this time to go over top of the Milky Way. So we're just going to position those, and then we'll glue them down. And here's the third card, all finished with my little UFO dude and his squiggly little eye. I love that little eye. And Saturn, either in green or in purple. I decided I liked purple on this card. Not used in today's card, but part of the release, the Starry Night 3D Emboss and Cut Folder and the Stencil Bundle. There are 3 stencils in there, and they're awesome. And as promised, here's the paper I was telling you about. This is the Spellbinders paper, gold assorted pack and a silver assorted pack, and they're awesome. I highly recommend them. They have a variety of finishes. There's dull, there's shiny, there's gunmetal, there's glimmer, there's non-glimmer, and the same with the gold. And it's really easy to make those fabulous little moons just by using the glitter and then the dull. They make awesome moons. Okay, so I have 2 leftover Milky Ways. Everything I've used today is listed underneath this video. There's also a link over to my blog. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving me a thumbs up and sharing it with your friends. And until next time, toodles!